subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.
Hello, my faithful nerds. Why do I say faithful nerds? I know you are always waiting to watch me. I am Isaac Ohina-Mankwa, and I am a facilitator for junior high ICT. And here we have our junior high lessons on our Joy Learning platform. Now, today we are going to learn about how we integrate ICT into our learning process, or how ICT has been able to, we have been able to incorporate ICT into our learning. Now, before we go on, now let's have my quote for today. I say, a computer will do what you tell it to do, but that may be much different from what you were thinking of or what you had in your mind. This is by Joseph Weizenbaum. It says the computer will do what you want it to do, but might be quite different or much different from what you had in mind. That is why we say what you see is what you get, or garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you feed it, it gives you back your response. It's like a mirror. If you look in the mirror, you see yourself. Okay, so today we are going to look at integrating ICT tools which aid learning in specific subjects. We will take some few subjects and I will give you an assignment to do for me. But don't worry, this assignment is not difficult. You can just go online and find solutions to it. But don't forget, I hope you have already taken your tablets, your phones. Well, don't let them distract you, but let's take them because we might need to research. Take your notebooks also and your computers and let's see. And we also state the negative side effects of integrating ICT tools in learning. Then we have state the positive side of integrating ICT in learning. So what is ICT? I know when I ask what is ICT, a lot of people will be like, sir, this question here is for the kindergartens. Well, let it be for them, but you'll be surprised that someone doesn't know. Well, we all know ICT simply stands for Information, Communication, and Technology. Let's give a little bit flesh to that definition. Then we will look at what we are referring to as ICT as part of learning. ICT is a generic term. When you say a generic term, it's a term that we give to a whole lot of things. That means it's not for a specific item. A generic term referring to technologies. 1. We are looking at what? Technologies. 2. So he says technologies which are being used for collecting and storing, editing, and passing on information. So if you have anything, any tool, any software, or any technology that conforms with this definition, then we are referring to it as what? An ICT. That is, it stands for what? The information bit, the communication bit, and the technology bit. Now, you all agree with me that technology feeds into what? Communication. And the communication feeds into what? Information. It is just as simple as that. So let's look at some of the communication tools in learning. The first one I can mention is what? Our projector. Well, in some schools, or some of you might have come across projectors before, others might have not come across projectors in their classrooms because we all don't go to the same schools. So some of us have schools where we are a little bit deprived of certain amenities when it comes to information communication technology learning or computer learning. We pray that we get these things in our school to aid teaching and learning. But you know it. Because you don't have it there, that's why we are here to provide it for you. Here at Joy Learning, we say keep learning. So from school, come back to us and let's keep learning. Then we have webcams. Webcams, are they needed in learning? Yes, they are. There are people who do online courses or who offer online tuitions where they have to use their web camera to video themselves across the platforms for people to also see. Then we have our mobile phones. We can have our mail. Someone will say, how can a mail be part of ICT? Yeah, it's a software which is fitted into what we call the communication aspect of ICT. Then we can have other softwares like Word, Microsoft Word. We can have Coda Gallery. We can have a whole lot of them. So the picture here is displaying some softwares we can have. By the way, don't worry. Next, when we meet, I will let us do some practicals and an interesting one. And I know at the end of the lesson, a lot of you will send me what you have been able to do with this lesson. Okay, so the internet is also another what? Communication tool which helps in what? Learning. Now, before you be able to look at or before you be able to go through integration with ICT, you have to have a little bit literacy or a literal background when it comes to ICT. So when you say ICT literacy, we want to say it involves what? Digital technology, communication or communication tools, and or access, manage, integrate, evaluate, and create information in order to function in what? A knowledge society. I'm taking it again. It involves digital technology, communication tools, which helps what? In managing, integrating, evaluating, creating information in order to function in the knowledge society. When we look at what we call ICT literacy, then we are looking at what? How technology is involved in the management, assessing, integrating, evaluating, and also creating information which helps us to function better in the knowledge society. What we mean by knowledge society is in our learning environment. And remember, learning does not take place only in the classroom. What we are doing right now, we are learning. We are both learning. And learning also takes place outside the classroom. So in your activities or in your interactions with technology or ICT tools, we term it as what? Learning, which is also known as what? Knowledge society. Some ICT tools which I will briefly mention here includes what we call word processing. This is a tool which is very, very powerful because it helps you in creating notes, helps you writing letters, documents, assignments, answering your questions. This is a very, very powerful tool. It doesn't only help you in creating documents, it's also help you in creating images, creating, tabloids, creating graphics and all those things. They are very powerful too. We also have games and simulations. These games, I just placed it in the general role. Games and simulations also helps us in improving our learning. Can you guess one of this gaming or simulations? Well, if you have come across Mavis Bacon is a game learning or a game simulation type of software which helps you in what? Typing. As you play the game, you learn how to what? Type, or the correct way of typing. That is to say, to type whilst not looking on the keyboard, but looking on the screen of the computer. And this Mavis Bacon helps you in doing that. There are other simulations which help. We have, if you go to, those who go to the, if what I'm saying is correct as in the name, the pilot schools, where they learn, and the aviation schools. Thank you. The aviation schools, if you go to the aviation schools, you realize that they have what we call a simulation, where you don't just go and sit in a plane and start to drive that I'm learning how to drive a plane. Hey, you kill yourself. So they have what we call simulators, where they sit behind and learn how to drive them before they even move to the main machine. Yes, they move from one step to another. They learn it through simulation. That's more or less like a virtual world before they move into the physical world. Now let's look at some subjects and ICT tools used in it. We can have the first one, mathematics. We can have mathematics, where we use what we call a spreadsheet to do mathematical computation. Don't worry, we will have a demonstration on this particular one. Then when we meet next, we will have a demonstration using Scratch. Yes, I've mentioned the name to you. If you don't have it, you can download it from, the Google Play Store, or you can even download it onto your PC. Scratch. Then we have also a calculator, which helps us in calculating figures. And these are all used in mathematics. Well, I know someone will be saying, Abase, you don't use calculators in JHS. Well, you don't use it, but you learn about them in JHS. In the same way, when you transit from JHS to the SHS, you still use your calculators. You learn. That's where you implement what you have learned about calculators in the senior high school. So calculators are also part of our ICT tools, or tools that have been integrated into our learning process. We also have TVs like Joy Learning. We say keep learning. We are here for you 24/7. We are on our social media everywhere, trying to give you the best of learning. I won't say the best of education, but the best of learning. That is why we say we are first, comparable to none. Yes, we'll be there for you. So Joy Learning is one of the ICT tools which has been incorporated into our learning, and we thank Multimedia for making this possible. So we also have the National Maths and Science Quiz, or National Science and Maths Quiz. This is also one of the tools which is used for learning. We have maths questions over there. We have math lessons on Joy Learning. So if you want any other lesson, you can still make time on Joy Learning to have. If you miss it, you go to our social media platforms, you have it there. So these are tools used in learning. Now when we come to English, we can talk about word processors. And this word processors helps in a whole lot of ways. First, we can talk about grammatical errors. That's what, even though they help in grammatical errors, we can also talk about Grammarly, which also helps in grammatical errors. They help improve your vocabulary and all those things. Grammarly helps that. We also have Scrabbles, which also help in vocabulary build up. If you want to learn something on English, like your comprehensions, your the comprehensions, compositions, we have the literature. Just come to Joy Learning. So everywhere in our subject, we have Joy Learning as part of it, because we are everywhere trying to help you. Then we have science. We can Google using Wikipedia. Sorry, we cannot Google using Wikipedia. We can search using Wikipedia, and we can Google using Google. Or someone will say we can search using what? Google. Then we have Joy Learning. We have the best science teacher here. Yeah. Sir Bismarck will help you with science. And we have the National Science and Maths Quiz, which is also an example of the TV type of ICT, which helps in learning. Then when we come to ICT, I mentioned that we will be doing something next time we meet on Scratch. Well, this is what Scratch looks like. It's a programming, it's a way of learning. I first encountered this about 7 years, let me say it's 8 to 9 years ago. 8 to 9 years ago, when I was trying to study programming. And a lecturer from MIT, I was watching a video where he introduced Scratch, and I enjoyed it. And later, I remember it was roped in Ghana by some partners, I think Dream Over, who came in and brought Scratch to schools where African Code Week, yes, they use Scratch. We also tried Scratch next when we meet, so don't worry. We have Scratch and we have Sprite. Scratch and Sprite are one and the same. They are one and the same. Then we have VS Code. That is a little bit advanced. Let's learn how to use Scratch, how to think, and when we are done, we move to the next one, which is what? VS Code. Then for graphics, as we're in the computer world, we'll be learning a lot of what? Graphics or Photoshop or CorelDRAW. We have Photoshop and CorelDRAW. So this is for Photoshop, the PS, and we have CorelDRAW for the grade 1. Now, importance of integrating ICT into learning. With this one, I would like you to brainstorm. Think about it. I'm giving you 2 minutes to think about it. When you are done, write your answers down. How best has ICT impacted your learning in the classroom? How best has Joy Learning helped you in learning? These are all part of what the importance of integration of what ICT in what our learning. So how best has it helped you? Or what are some of the benefits you have derived from this? So I'm giving you 2 minutes. I know a lot of you have used ICTs in your schools. Some of you have it incorporated into your classrooms, where any teacher who comes in can easily use projectors and other things. Well, one thing I have noticed is that we are living in a generation which I call a virtual generation. We tend to love to see more than to do. We tend to, or we love sighting. We love sight more than anything. So anytime we see things like this, we tend to have high hopes that we'll be able to learn something better, which is very true. So how has it helped you? The virtual world, the computer world, the TV world, how has it helped you? Now, let's go to the first one. I can say it provides a new way of learning. Why do I say it provides a new way of learning? Remember, when we were before COVID, we came before COVID, long before COVID. We came long before COVID. But when COVID struck, what happened? We realized that a lot of schools closed down, but schools with ICT incorporation or ICT incorporated into their classroom or their learning were able to still continue with their learning. But those who didn't have it suffered. But hey, if you suffered, then that means you were not paying attention to Joy Learning. We were here to help you learn. By the way, when COVID struck, a lot of schools started incorporating what? ICT into what? Their learning. And they went a long way to bring about what? New learning. So they found new ways as they are operating, as students are operating, how do we call it? As you, a learner, operating this console and operating the softwares, you are still learning. So it brought about what? New learning. So that's one of the benefits of ICT into learning. Then we have, it promotes high order thinking. Someone will say, what is high order thinking? Critical thinking, thinking quicker, thinking highly, When people are thinking about something small, you are thinking about 10 steps ahead of them. ICT is able to help you do that because it cuts your work down to the extent that you can easily think on what to do quickly. It encourages collaboration. It encourages what? Collaboration. Now, when we say it encourages collaboration, there are some schools where you realize that the computers are outnumbered by the number of students who are to use it. And sometimes you might have about 10 students moving to one computer. And I know it's a problem, but let's use it gradually. And even with that, we can help each other. You realize that you'll be doing something and a friend will say, no, not that way. Do it this way. This is how we do it. They say, oh, yes, that's what teacher said. Or that's what sir said. Or that's what madam said. Then you realize that you are collaborating with each other to perform tasks. And sometimes a task is given to you in a group. And you all come together to find solution to the task. This is all what we call collaboration in learning. It motivates learners. Yes, I have come across learners when they see projectors in their classroom, they become very happy because they know they are going to learn something better. They are going to watch something and learn something. So ICT integration into learning helps learning. But wait, not all schools will get projectors. Well, they are quite expensive. But we have schools who have LCDs, flat screens, fitted in the classrooms where learning still goes on. It's the same as the projectors. They are the same. Just that one will be larger, or one can produce a larger output than the other. It improves knowledge retention. Knowledge retention. How we are able to retain our knowledge. That is one of the great benefits that ICT have brought into learning. Why do I say? I remember I told you that this generation that we have, we are into more visuals or the virtual world than any other thing. We don't like the physical world much. We like the visual. What we see, we want to see a lot. So when you have ICT incorporated into your learning, where you watch videos, you watch online to solve problems, to solve your homeworks and other things, you realize that you will retain the video much. And besides, pictures can stick better if you play them over and over. So as you play the video over and over, they stick. So they bring about retention. It makes work easier. That's one of the benefits of a computer as it stands. So one of its benefits is it makes work easier. It encourages or it promotes individual learning. You are home right now. If I should put any exercise or an assignment on board, you realize that on the screen, you realize that you have to sit down and research on your own. So over here, you are doing what you call individual learning. You are going through pages or websites just to find solutions to your problem. And this is individual learning. And I will encourage you to do that more often. If you are sitting down doing nothing and you are not watching us on Joy Learning TV, why don't you take your phone? Take your notebooks, whatever you have learned, key it into the Google, and let's see the answers that will come out. Whatever you learn, you add up to what you have already learned. And if you know what you are supposed to learn the following day or the day before, or the day after, you can still search or research it, learn it before you get to the classroom. It will help you in retention, in knowledge retention too. Students can learn useful life skills through technology. By using technology in the classroom, both the teacher and the student can develop skills essential for this century. Students can gain the skills they need to be successful in the future. Modern learning is about collaborating with others. Modern learning is about collaborating with others, because one person is not a paragon of knowledge. I don't know everything. I can never boast of knowing everything. What I know is like the tip. Might be even smaller than the tip of this light pen. What I know about IT might be like the tip. Very tiny. No one can boast that he knows everything about IT. There's no one. Because as we are moving on, there are new generations of computers coming up. We have AIs, those who studied computers some time ago might not know AI, but will still have to improve knowledge on AIs. Now, there are so many different technologies coming up because people are being creative. So if you think you know everything, I tell you, you don't know anything. So it helps in what? Collaborating learning. You do something, I learn from you. I do something, you learn from me. We also have what? Solving complex problems. Yes. When we say solving complex problems, someone will say, but how? Remember I mentioned Scratch. Scratch is programming, and programming is solving problems. Programming is not fun. It's for what? Solving problems. Even though you program for fun to solve problems, it is not a game. It is not just for jokes. It is to learn how to what? Solve problems. Let's say I have a problem. Anytime I switch on my phone, a screen appears before it boots to the main screen. Now, how do I solve that problem? I don't know, so I go through programming. I try to reprogram the phone I have, and I'm able to take that screen off, which might be delayed. There are so many things. You can create programs that will solve water problems. So you can create softwares that will be more or less like a simulation, which will stand in for, let's say, disasters that we know are bound to happen, how they will happen and when they will happen. There are people creating a lot of softwares trying to solve issues. They know that maybe in 2 years to come, there's going to be a flood. They have software which will predict, and they will also proffer solutions. They will give out solutions that will help curb or stop these issues. So let's try and be creative. We shouldn't be there and love to use people's software. Let's be a little bit nosy. Let's look into it. How did they do it? Was it created? What went into it? Let's study them. That is how we get to learn more and more, and will help us solve complex problems. And also, as you do that, you become a critical thinker. You ask yourself, so how do I solve these problems? I have this solution. Let me put it into practicals. I put it into practicals. It doesn't work. Then as I try, I become quicker in thinking of solutions. So as the saying goes, practice makes perfect. As you practice and practice, you become perfect. And as you practice, you grow in critical thinking. And you have developing different forms of communication and leadership skills. Yes, I know there are people who find it difficult to even stand in front of people to speak. Well, if I have, someone created Zoom, I go on Zoom. I am not there physically, so I don't see what is going on. And I can choose not to see anyone, but see myself. And I will be speaking, and when I'm done. So as you go through that, you bring in one person, and the next person, you realize there are a lot of people coming in. And gradually, you'll be able to stand in front of people. Because in the virtual world, it's the same as in the physical world. Just that we choose to go to more virtual worlds. And improving motivation and productivity. Now, technology can help develop many practical skills, including creating presentations, like what we are using here, PowerPoint presentations. It helps you if you are able to go through, study them. See, the truth of the matter is, I never waited for someone to teach me. I always go for the knowledge. I am always learning. So you shouldn't relax. You should always be what? Learning. There are so many things I know that I never went to any school to learn. I learned it online, or I learned it by operating the computer. And as I operated it, I was able to grasp or understand what it meant. Remember, what you feed it is what you get. So you never, if you feed it garbage, you get garbage. So as you are feeding, you are trying to learn from it, it gives you what you want to know. Now it says what technology can help develop many practical skills, including creating presentation, learning from different reliable and unreliable resources, different reliable and unreliable sources. Why do we say reliable and unreliable? Now, when we open our Google to search, and we key in our search query, whatever comes out might be reliable or unreliable. Remember that in our previous lesson, we mentioned that sometimes whatever information you have there might be outdated. That means that information is not reliable. And sometimes you have to comb through series or lots of information to get the accurate information. But as I said, if you want news, we at Multimedia, we give you news. Accurate news. So, as I'm saying, reliable and unreliable sources on the what? Internet. Maintaining proper online etiquette. Yes, how to behave online. A lot of people are not behaving well online. Going to the extent of frauding or defrauding people. Going to the extent of, how do we call it? Insulting, putting on several words on the internet. Sometimes we go to the extent of putting pictures which are not good. Very bad ones. And with your usage, and as you continue to use, you tend to develop your etiquettes in using them. I know a lot of people started on social media with complaints, and as they went on, they changed, and now they are far better than how they began social media. They are far better. So we also go on and say that these are very important skills that can be developed in the classroom. Not anywhere, even in the classroom, these skills can be developed. Because as you are online, your facilitator or your teacher is telling you, don't go here, don't do this. And as you follow the instructions, you are able to have a good time online and also etiquette. And remember, writing of emails, we don't just write letters or letters to anybody. There are ways we write letters. Using the internet, it can help you. So let's look at how we do all this. I want us to have a little demonstration using the Excel sheet. It won't take more than 5 minutes. Just a little demonstration. How to do the calculation using Excel. Using what? Excel. We said Excel is one of our mathematics calculation. I'm using Excel because that is the tool readily for us. And so that if we try to use Scratch will take a long time. So when we meet again, we will be using Scratch. So now let's try and use Excel. So we are going to look at how to use Excel to compute in mathematics. We can do multiplication in Excel. We can do division. We can find the average, find the percentage. All this can be done in Excel. Even though it is not a calculator, we can still do it. So now let's move to the next screen and let's see what we can do with it. We are just going to look at about 3 of them, then we come back and continue our lesson. We have our screens now, and this is the Excel windows. And with this Excel windows, we are going to enter data into our Excel windows. Now, if you have not had an experience with Excel, the green box that moves is what we call a cell. It's called an active cell. So we are going to enter data into these cells and calculate them. So let's say we are calculating the number of cars that move through our streets in a day. So let's say we have Toyota. We have, we are using the model, so we have VW, we have Benz, we have Nissan, we have, let's use this 4. Then let's put in the figures. The first one we have 230. So let's clean them. Let's move back up. So 203. Then we have 506. We have 125. Then we have 652. These are the number of cars that move through our street. Now, how do we calculate and find the total number of cars? It's just addition. Do I need to just start calculating 3 plus 6 plus 5 plus 2? No. What we do is we input a simple formula, which is equal to some bracket open. Then we can highlight the whole thing and we click enter. It gives us the total number of cars that plow our road within a day, and we have 1,486. Now let's see. So this is what addition. Let's look at subtraction. Now in subtraction, let's take figures like 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, 1, 2. Then we have 2, 5, 8, 7, 4, 1. 4, 2. We have 21. And we are trying to subtract the second and third number, these two numbers, from the first number. So in order to do that, we do equal to sub. So instead of doing sub, we can do bracket. Then we have this minus this and this. Then we put our enter. Put our enter. Then we have 209. So we have 209. So that is very simple. It's easy to calculate when you are using what? Excel. So let's try and multiply and see. In Excel, our multiplication is asterisk. So to multiply, I can write 23 multiplied by... in Excel, before you do any computation, either addition, subtraction, multiplication, it should begin with what? An equal sign. So equal to, so let's say bracket 15 multiplied by 5, bracket close. When I enter, it gives me what? 75. So Excel can be used as what? A calculator for you. Now, can we find percentage? Sometimes there are formulas created for you, but you can also use your own formula if it will work. Make sure the formula you are quoting works, else you will not get your desired answer. So this is what we have for today. Now let's go back to our screen, our presentation, and let's see what we have left. So now we have this screen. So that is very simple when we are calculating using what? Excel. But it's quite easy. Remember, don't forget to what? Begin with what? An equal to sign and also a bracket. There are formulas written, but you can also give your own formulas. If your formulas doesn't work, you can easily Google for answers. So let's go back to our screens to see what we have next. Now, so we are done with our demonstration, and I'm expecting that you also do the same at home. If you have any homework, you can do it. But don't forget, we don't only use calculators and Excel spreadsheet for mathematics. There is an app called Photomat and others. You can use them. But remember, don't always rely on those ones for your homework. Try to work it from your memory or what you have learned and see if you are correct before you go to Photomat to see if your answer is correct. If you don't do that, you will end up using virtual and at the end might not learn anything. So let's be careful the way we use ICT tools in learning. Now, before we go on to our assignment, this is what I want to do. I want to talk about a little about the negative effects. Well, we were supposed to look at negative and positive, but we dwelt much on the positive. The negative, I won't mention much, because in schools, you are controlled. At home, watching Joy Learning, you are controlled. But when you are alone, and you are using your ICT tool, this is an advice. Let's be careful on pages that we click. Some of these pages are filled with malicious intents. When you click on them, they tend to enable hackers hack your system. It's very dangerous. So let's be very, very careful. If you are not familiar with the page, please don't click on them. It is very, very dangerous. So now let's go back to the assignment. And please don't forget, when you are learning online, the negative aspect, one of them is that we concentrate much on the virtual world than our physical world. We need to use both. Look at the computer and look at your books also. Thank you. Now, the first question is, list 3 tools used to aid learning. List 3 tools used to aid learning. 3 tools used to aid learning in schools. This is quite easy. Quite easy. I know you don't have any issues with it. Then the next question is that list 2 tools and or technologies which helps in learning for the following subjects. For the following. So 1, social studies. 2, French. 3, BDT. And in BDT, we have home economics, we have pre-tech, and we have visual art. So for home economics, you give 2 tools. You have pre-tech, you give 2 tools. You have visual art, you give 2 tools. Remember, before we gave for mathematics, ICT, science, and English, we gave tools that are used in learning. So I'm expecting that you also go on the internet or what you have been using in schools, you put the answers down. Now, I'll be expecting your answers in my account. Or better still, why don't you put it on our platforms, our social media platform, and I'll mark your answers for you. And when I'm done, I'll give you the feedback. If you wanted to send it to my email, you can send it to ohene@gmail.com. You can send it to this email account, or you can go to our YouTube channel, or our Facebook channel, or our Instagram channel, that is Joy Learning TV, and you can put the answers under this particular lesson, and I will get it and also respond with the solutions. Now, what have we learned so far? Remember, we said that when we talk about integrating computing or ICT into learning, we are talking about what? How we integrate not only electronic gadgets, but also softwares and other materials that helps in what? Learning. And this may include softwares. This may also include televisions, projectors. This all help in what? Our learning. And we said that when we come to subjects like mathematics, we can have softwares like spreadsheet. We can have a gadget or a tool like a calculator. We can also have another software like Photomat, and there are other softwares which we can use. Now, one example of spreadsheet that we used was what? Microsoft Excel. That's what we demonstrated on. Then we come to our television side. We said you can also meet us on what? Joy Learning TV, where we also give you what? Tuition. We give you the best tuition. We have our best mathematics teachers here, our best science teachers, English teachers, RME, social studies. We are very good. We impart you with a lot of knowledge, learning. Now, and we also spoke about using, when we come to science, we can also talk about what? Wikipedia, Britannica, we can talk about Google, we can also talk about Joy Learning. When it comes to English, you can talk about Joy Learning with what? Auntie Jackie Clark. You can talk about that. When you come to science, you can talk about what? Sir Bismarck. So these are all what? Avenues where we have added what? ICT to our learning. And besides, here on Joy Learning, what we are doing is what? Giving you learning or giving you the best tuition through ICT. That is what? Tele-education. So when we talk about what? Integrating ICT to learning, these are all part. Then we come to the positives of what? The positives of incorporating ICT into our learning. We said it helps what? Improve memory retention or knowledge retention. It helps you what? Keep what you have learned. I remember what a demonstration my teacher made. And since today, that's what has given me understanding of that particular topic. So if we focus a little more on the visuals, I know we will be able to remember, since the visuals are always playing in our heads. Now, we can also talk about making what? Learning easy. Example, we can find learning anywhere and everywhere. We are here learning about what? Integrating, or we are here learning ICT. When you go to, you switch on to maybe in an hour or in a 30 minutes time, you come and you realize that it's another teacher or another facilitator also giving you what? Tuition on a different what? Subject. So this is what? Part of what? The positives. It has become easy to what? Learn. It has become also easy to learn or acquire skills needed for what? Everyday life. Example is what? PowerPoint presentation, writing essays, sending messages, creating documents. These are all skills that are needed for our day-to-day running. And the last and not the least, I also mentioned that what? One of the negative aspects is that we become what? Desocialized. We focus more on the virtual world than the physical world, which is a very bad thing. We should focus on what? Both the virtual and the what? The physical. You go into your computer a little bit, you have to come back to your books also a little bit. So this is what we have for you today. Don't forget, I'll still be expecting the answers to the questions. And let me read the questions one more time before I leave you. It says, list 3 tools used to aid learning in your school. I'm specifically talking about your school, not any other school. Then we have list 2 tools or technologies which helps in the learning of the following. That is social studies. We have French, BDT, and under BDT, I'm expecting that you give me 2 for home economics, 2 for pre-tech, and 2 for visual arts. So till we meet again, this is Joy Learning. And keep learning. I am your facilitator, Isaac Ohiniamankwa. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.